it's me on my own again this week, and I'm hoping we just had a bit of drama because there's an error, an orange error sign saying YouTube is not receiving enough information, etc. But according to tech support Tim, that is just YouTube being a drama queen, that you will be able to see me and you will be able to hear me. So I hope he's right, and I hope this is broadcasting. Well, as I say, I'm on my own. I haven't even got the replacement cello case with me today, but Manky and Panky decided they would stand together on this side of the shelves representing Caroline in order to give me moral support. Just to fill you in, things have been rather hectic here at HQ. A lot of things going on at the moment as we move into the new year. As a result, Caroline's asked me to apologise to any of her friends who were in on this chat who follow her on her craft channel, as she hasn't been able to get a video out on the craft channel since Christmas. So she's made the decision, the only way she's going to try and get everything back and get all her ducks in a row is to resume her YouTube activities in February. So she's hoping to have everything done and dusted, get life back on an even keel so that things are not lagging behind in other areas of our life. And it means that Caroline will return to YouTube in February. Obviously, we have pre-recorded videos that we can put out, and I can do the premieres, and I will turn up on Saturday night as long as you're turning up on Saturday night, and I'm sure we'll have a bit of fun. But just want to let you know, February, Caroline is hoping to be back in full swing, getting back into our craft channel for the spring, as well as returning here on the live show, and we hope to be going out and making more videos. As they say, life never runs as smooth as you would like it to. Whatever plans you make, you have to allow for time and fortune to get in the way. But everything is fine, everything is great, and I'm sure that the next couple of weeks will fly by, but hopefully they'll be long enough for Caroline to be able to do all that she needs to do, because there's just so many things that come up. So I'd better start by checking who was in first, because I know there's people in and I can't see anybody shouting we can't hear you. Let's have a look here. Radio. No, nobody's saying they can't hear me. Nobody's saying they can't hear me. Oh, good. Somebody's saying there, Flower Girl on Ward 17, Hotel Caroline, that this first month of January has been crazy, out of sorts for the rest of us. We understand the hiatus is needed. Good to hear, Phil. Thanks, Caroline. Even for myself, it's been the strangest of months. I've been working in my field of work now for over a decade, and this is the busiest month I've had in that whole time. And of course, that includes going right the way through the COVID pandemic. This is the busiest time. Part of the problem we have is when I am that busy and tied up with what I do, I'm out on a visit tomorrow. It's Saturday today, and I've conducted 2 funeral services today on a Saturday, and when I arrived there was one coming out that had been taken by the local minister just before. So it is really crazy, but it has a knock-on effect as well as Caroline's issues to be dealt with. I can't be available for so many things in the family, etc., and she has to carry the can. Like saying you need to take time. Yeah, well, the problem we have in life is, and it's one of the things I learned a long time ago because I didn't heed the warnings, is when life starts to get really hectic, you've got to pick certain things and put them down, because if you don't put 1 or 2 of those balls down, they'll all end up on the floor. And I learned that the hard way myself, and therefore I'm always very cautious in my own life and in the life of the people I love to say, if you need to back down, back down. Always remember when I was in ministry, when I was actually running a church before I moved over into the work that I do nowadays, I stood up one day in the pulpit and I said, Caroline isn't here today. I said, don't panic, she's okay. It's just she was really tired. And I said to her, love, why don't you have the night off and take a rest? And it was amazing because while I thought there may be a bit of a backlash from that, the minister's wife not coming because she's tired, a person told me later that they'd come to our church that night, and the reason they decided to join was because of that announcement. He said because they'd always been made to feel that they had to be there no matter what, and there were times when they felt that they'd put it above things that they should have done. And when I said that, that's what gave them the feeling, this is the place I belong. So there we go, folks. It is good to take time out for sure. More important things going on in life than YouTube. Yeah, that's true. We love YouTube. We really do. We love it. And I'll tell you what we love the most about it. I'll be honest with you. And that's you lot, including West Country Mudlarks. It's lovely people that we may not get to meet. We've met one or two, but sometimes even when we're traveling, it's just so hectic. We don't have the time to meet with people, but we know you're out there. We know you care. And it's lovely that the community cares. And one of the prime reasons why I decided that rather than just pull the plug on the live show for a couple of weeks, I was happy to come down here as long as you lot are happy to just have me and the Bears, because seeing this group coming together, talking to each other, when people share the good news as well as the sad news, as well as the times they're sick, and to see all the love that flows, that is what I love about YouTube. I know all the social media can get bad press because terrible things can happen, but it's the same with everything in life. It's not the thing, it's how you use it. And we love the way we use it. So it does mean a lot to us, and that's why we want to keep it going. That's why Caroline can't wait to get back into her craft channel, because she loves craft and she loves the channel. But at the moment, several things have had to stand by in order that she can get the other things done. So it's all coming together. But as I say, I'd better, lots and lots of chat. Well, you are a chatty lot tonight. I'm travelling all the way to the top because I want to know who came in first. Hang on. No, that's not the top. There's the top. Gosh. And I can tell you the first one to post in the chat today was Ian Davis. So there we go. Ian, you were first in. Rachel Bailey, you were second in. And Anne Goodwin, you were third. Just Pippin, Laura, Sully's Creations to the post. So there we go. We got Ian, Rachel and Anne. You were first, second and third coming into the room. But, of course, there'll be lots of opportunities to take podium positions in a competitive sense. And that's when we do the quiz, which we will be doing through the night. As always, all the questions are related in some way to what went on in the video. But we've got one question tonight, if we get to it, because you know what I'm like for waffling on and never getting there. But we've got one question tonight that is from last week's video. But I wanted to put it in because I didn't get the time to run it last week. So hopefully we'll get down there this time. Thanks for everybody who watched the premiere. Thanks for all your comments. Yeah, that part of the world has certainly been kind to us when it comes to pipe bowls, pipe stems and inks. But we've got a couple more videos from there, and I can show you now, we have probably got the best pipe stem discovery video that we've ever made yet to come. So I'll just throw that out there because that'll be coming up in the next few weeks, and I know you'll enjoy it. But it was enjoyable just to be out and about. It was a weird day because the sun was shining. It was glorious. But gosh, it was cold. It was really cold. And under the shade of the trees, that frost and ice just wasn't melting. But we really had a good time. Ed saying, this chat is so lovely, I don't have to use any of the moderator tools. Yeah, in fairness, I think we've been running the live show now since the beginning of 2020. Was it the lockdown came in of March? Was it March 2020? So that's 5 years coming up, is it? It can't be. Good grief. It is. 21, 22, 23, 24. It is, you know. I can't believe that. Gosh. We've been running a live show for almost 5 years. I'll double check that, because if the 5 years are coming up, we've got to have a party, haven't we? We've got to have a party. But in all that time, I think I've seen the moderators use their moderating tools on, well, I could probably count the number of times on the fingers of my hands, which is lovely, because occasionally the reason they get used is you get a troll coming in. Somebody skims along, finds we're there, sees people chatting and decides to put something up that hopefully will draw our attention, and we will go over to focusing on them and trying to argue with them. We don't. Our moderators are brilliant. They just delete them and wipe them out. So, but that's happened so rarely, and not with our regulars. But as I say, it's brilliant to see all the chatting going on. It's difficult for me to check the chat and look to the camera, which Caroline tells me I really must do. And you never know, she may get a moment to turn her phone on or something and check on me to make sure I'm looking at the camera. So if you are, dear, look, I'm looking at the camera, honest, and I haven't taken my eyes off. But if there's something you want me to answer or you want to comment, please use capitals, use lots of smiley faces, use exclamation marks. I won't think you're shouting at me. I'll know you're shouting to me to get my attention, and I will do my best to keep an eye on what's going on with what you're saying over there. But I'll tell you what we'll do now. If I can find my logo, we'll get started, because we are nearly quarter of the way through. So we'd better get started, and we'll do that with a question. There we go. I'm getting the hang of this now, so you don't get that 10 minutes of blackness where I try to figure out what I'm doing. Okay, let's ask a question. Now, I'm not going to dwell on this, because Monkey and I are still recovering from the absolute whitewash that was our game of Play No Pattern with Caroline. Because didn't we take an hammering? Caroline did try to be a little noble and offer us all or nothing on the last turn, but to be honest, that wouldn't have made any difference, because she won that as well. So there we go. We lost, I think it was, Monkey says 6-0, but don't say it too loudly. But during that, the very first piece, I believe, that we turned over, Caroline was quite excited by, because she said, "Ooh, that's lovely. It's spongeware." Now, I'm rubbish at identifying anything. I do know what willow pattern is, and that's about it. But Caroline sometimes says, "Oh, look, here's some spongeware. Here's some spongeware." And I've heard others speak of spongeware, and it seems that it's something that people like to find, and there doesn't seem to be as much of it about as there is other forms of pattern and pottery. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about spongeware and then ask you a question related to it. Because spongeware pottery originated in the 1830s and was popular in Britain, Europe, and North America. It was a cottage industry, with women decorating pieces at home and then returning them to the factory for firing. So this is back in the 1830s. So this is early 19th century homework. You know, it's a big deal now. In our country, they allowed lots and lots of people to work from home during the pandemic. Then they realized this is working wonderfully well. Actually, our productivity is up, our costs are down. This is great. And then for some reason last year, it became unpopular, and now they're trying to force people back into the office. Well, it sounds like a modern issue. But in the 1830s, ladies were receiving blanks they were decorating them using the method of sponge wear, using a sponge, then sending them all back to be fired at the kiln. And that's how this was produced. What I want to know is, where in the 1830s was sponge wear first made? Was it in England? That would be A. Ireland? That would be B. Or Scotland? That would be C. Go! There we go. See, nice, clear, go! So, what do you think? It's definitely one of those three. So you know it wasn't Wales. Right? It wasn't Wales, but it was one of those three countries. It was either England A, Ireland B, or Scotland C, where people first, the ladies of that region, began to take the work and create the sponge wear. It was either England A, Ireland B, Scotland C. Oh, now the answers are coming in. Now the answer. Oh, now all three answers are coming in. Yes, we have got a variety. We have got quite a variety of answers. Yeah, but we have got more than enough correct answers, which is always a positive. It is indeed always a positive. So let's have a look at what the correct answer is, and I'm going to roll back up to see who the first ones were. Well, sadly, the first answer in wasn't correct because Dan Fetters said A and it wasn't England. But then we move on to the correct answer because in came a few C's. It was Scotland. That's where in 1830 the women started to decorate sponge wear in Scotland in the 1830s. So I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe, correct answers in a row. But only the first three can take podiums. And tonight, straight in there on a gold podium, it's Lexi B. Next, the chap who was first in is now taking second place on a silver podium with the questions, and that's Ian Davis. And we've got to go right round to the other side of the world for our bronze position because Linda Peterson, you've got the bronze. So it's Lexi, Ian and Linda, but I'll just mention that Mike Sage was next, then Anne Goodwin, then Bonnie Tyler Fan. There was those straight afterwards, so it was 6 in a row because West Country Mudlarks went for Ireland. I thought that Ireland would catch people out as well. But then we were back to Scotland again with Dorothy and Jen. So a lot of you got the Scottish answer. And I think possibly that maybe not just guesses on everyone's part, because I know you take an interest in these things, in the pottery and stuff. And I didn't know until I did my research. But I learned an awful lot by setting the quizzes for you all. Right. I'm just going to run back down to the bottom now in case anybody is speaking. Oh, hang on, what have we got here? We've got... Oh, Rita Malberg. I see a row of faces caught my eye. I am coming to Wales for Easter. Kinmel Golden Sands is my location then. Right, we'll have to check out whereabouts that is. If you want to contact us, Rita, on the email address, mudlarking@aol.com, with any details of where you're staying and when, and if it's feasible and you'd like to, perhaps we'll be able to grab a coffee, even if we can't do anything else. So please make contact there and send us the details, because obviously the chat runs by, I forget things, the chat disappears. But please let us know, and if you'd like to meet up, we'll see what we can arrange, as long as we're sometimes we're like ships that pass in the night, and people come into Wales and we've gone off out to Hastings or Yorkshire or Scotland or somewhere. But well done on putting the row of faces up. It worked. As I ran down, I saw it. Okay, so now I'm back down at the bottom, so that's great. Right, find. Let me just show you. I'll show you the one that I promised to clean up for today, and I've kept my word. Because we picked up this, which I thought was extremely pretty. That's the back. It was a cup. You can see the handles there. All I intend to do is to grind that off, and then use this just as a receptacle to keep things in. Because on the other side there, now you can see the scene much more clearly. Because in fairness to Caroline, I'll say nice things about her even though she's not here, just in case she's somewhere listening. She did try and clean it on camera. But of course, when she tried to clean it on camera, it just got dirtier. And we decided in the end that all we could see was a village in the mud. But Caroline said, oh, I think there's snow. So there we go. That's the image. It looks to me like it could be somewhere. Now, that might sound like a silly thing to say. Of course it's somewhere. No. But what I mean is, I think someone may look at that who says, I know where that is. Because a lot of images are just made up. Others are of places. But I wonder if that's a place. Because that in the background seems like an identifiable skyline. But on the other hand, it just may have been created for this purpose at the pottery. Who knows? But it cleaned up quite well. Still a couple of little marks inside that I'll need to soak it to get them off again. But as I say, just take the rough edges off here and it becomes usable. And I actually do use one, because how many of you remember this? Do you remember this little cup? Well, that sits on my bedside table, and every night, loose change in my pocket drops into there, and every morning, pick it up, tip it out, put it back in my pocket. So that's where I keep my loose change, because it's very useful. And okay, it came off a dump, but sometimes it's just nice to have things that remind you of fun times you've had out with people picking up stuff, and that does. And we did comment at the time, it was a very, very nice clean pattern on it. So I actually use that. Right, now I think it's time for there we go. I got a row of pussycats from Rita. Will do, Phil. Not sure how long we'll stay there, but we'll be back in the summer. Would love to meet you then. Okie doke. That's great. That's great. Well, as I say, if not this time, then contact us before you come down in the summer. We are usually around in the summer. We don't travel too far in the middle of summer, simply because the roads are so busy. Kids are everywhere. So we tend to do most of our traveling either side, so we could be at home. So that would be great. That would be great. Yeah, that's what I meant, Ed. Well done. I'm glad that you're here to interpret for me, because I haven't got the wife and I've relied on her for 42 years now to do the interpreting. Actually, it's longer than that. What are we in? Good grief. It'll be 44 years come September this year. So there we go. Right-o. Right. What was I going to do? Some happy news. Right. Well, this bit of happy news is born out of something that is far from happy, because, of course, I know there are those of you who, for whom it is very close to home, and many of us have followed the tragic progress of the fires out in America as they have been devastating communities. But there was a story that I picked up this week that brought an illustration of goodness that came out of all that devastation and wildfires. And the headline is, "Neighbours Fight Wildfire and Win." Amid the tragic property loss from South California wildfires comes a story of neighbours helping their neighbours. A new brush fire had started spreading on Wednesday evening near Runyon Canyon and the hills overlooking the densely populated area of Hollywood Boulevard. Blowing embers from the fire ignited a tall palm just above a house in the neighbourhood where the homeowners had already fled. A half dozen neighbours jumped into action with a ladder, tossing hoses onto the roof to spray the palm tree as its embers started scattering onto the driveway and the home below. Afterwards, Tony, one of the people who helped save the neighbourhood, said, "The balcony was on fire and I went round the back to grab the garden hose. Luckily, they had a Ring camera as well. They were like, 'Hello, what are you doing?' And I'm like, 'Your house is on fire. I'm trying to save it.' So they were very grateful. After 40 minutes of hosing down the palm tree, the embers finally went out. The property was saved, a property that if it had caught fire could have well spread to the neighbouring houses." So, that was a very positive story. They weren't trying to, we saw images of people trying to save their own properties until it became unsafe to do so, and then they'd fled. But on this occasion, the area where this happened was just neighbouring where these people lived, and they saw the danger for someone else in their property who had gone, and they went over and saved that house that wasn't theirs, but they did it for someone else. And the officials feel that in saving that house, they prevented the fire from spreading into a whole neighbourhood. So I thought that was a nice story. I thought it was a good human story. It was about neighbourliness. It was about doing something because it feels the right thing to do. Not asking the question, well, why? What's in it for me? And so often in life, that's how things are. We have to earn a living. So we ask, what's the income? What's the wage? What's the hourly rate? But there are times in life when you can actually gain those bigger rewards. And the bigger rewards, bigger than money, is when you get that sense of satisfaction from doing something good and making a difference. And this bunch of people getting together like they did to save their neighbour's house, they did something good and they certainly made a difference. So that was something that I thought I'd share with you tonight, and I hope you enjoyed that story. Let's have a look at another find. Now then, this is a nice find. I like these bottles. I like the shape on them. I love the fact that the top of that bottle is not straight. It is going up, it's going in, it's coming out, and then it's going straight. I love that. Living now in a world where virtually everything is mass produced to a point of perfection that they are all identical, I just love the concept of things being just a little bit different. Because the reality is that it's the little differences that make the world such an interesting place. As my granny always used to say, wouldn't the world be boring if we were all the same? And I think she was right. But when I see these bottles, there are two substances I think of when I see that shaped bottle. One, for some reason, is camp coffee, and the other, that's coffee essence that we sometimes pick up, coffee and chicory essence, and the other is gravy browning. We still, even today, not in bottles that are wonky, but in similar shaped bottles there, buy gravy browning for making gravy. And I don't know what was in this, but I get a sneaking suspicion it was one or the other, because I can't shift that off the inside. So I don't know if that is coffee and chicory or whether it's gravy browning, but I dare say with the right chemicals and enough patience, I would be able to get it off. But it just kind of confirms my suspicions that there was something brown and liquid in here that would stain. And as I turn that, can you see in the neck there, the bubble? Just at the base of the neck, quite a big bubble there. And all the way round, you can see the creases and little bubbles in the glass. And the colour as well. The colour is gorgeous. So I like that bottle. And although it had nothing written on it, and although I really should have left it there, I brought it home. Okay, well, it's past. I've got 6 questions. We've done 1. And I started with question 2. Because I wasn't sure if Lexi was in. But now I know Lexi's in because Lexi actually got number 2, which I asked as number 1, right. And came in on the goal position. But I'll now ask number 1, which will be number 2. Are you confused? I'm not at all surprised. But the reason I reversed them is because we were joking yesterday in the chat about the fact that there was Latin on. Caroline was reading Latin off one of the finds. And I said, wow, an excuse to give a question on Latin. And Lexi joked that she'd better get over to Duolingo and brush up on a bit of Latin. Well, if you did, it just might come in handy because here's the Latin question, Lexi, for you and everyone else. Okay, how's your Latin, folks? What is the translation of the Latin amicus humani as seen on the Shores and Sons earthenware bottle that Caroline found? Is it A, heart of man? Is it B, friend of man? Or is it C, strength of man? Go. So what do you think it is? The human, that translates of man. So we're looking for that first word, amicus. Do you think it's heart of man? That's A. B, friend of man. Or C, strength of man. So let's see now the A's, the B's and the C's coming in. Have we got heart, friend or strength? A, B or C? Whichever it is, I thought it was quite an unusual thing to have on the front of a pop bottle. Albeit a very posh one in stoneware, and I wish it had been whole. We only had the front, just over half of it, and part of the top was broken off, but enough to see that it belonged to Shores and Sons, which many of you commented on and said they were big in your part of the world. And there was a comment saying, I remember them delivering to the house and picking up the empties and paying the deposits. So it'll be interesting to see now who's been doing their Latin homework. Well, lots of you are having a go. So I don't know if we've got some real Latin students out there, or whether we have got lots and lots of guesses, or whether people know the answer. But I can tell you, some of the people do know the answer. Yeah, because we've got correct answers. Looks like the vast majority have gone A or B. Well, I can tell you, if you went B, you'd be right. Because it is friend of man. Amicus is friend. So, who came in on the B's? Well, I can tell you there were quite a few. And I just want to make sure that I've got to the top of the list so I don't get it wrong. Yep. The very first one in was the very first answer. It was West Country Mudlarks with a B. So, goal position for you. I'm sure you can balance on there, the two of you. Then we've got Dan Fetters. He also went with B, so picks up a silver. Mike went with A. Sorry, Mike. You're not on your own because Linda Peterson went with A as well. But in between the two of you, in between Mike and Linda going A, there was another B from Rachel Bailey. So Rachel, you get the bronze. So that's West Country Mudlarks on number 1 podium with gold. Dan Fetters with silver. And Rachel Bailey, you take the bronze on this occasion. As I say, rather posh. You know, just goes to show times change. When you've got mottos in Latin on the front of drinks bottles that were being issued around the place 100 years or so ago. Right, let's get back to the bottom of the chat now, because if I forget to move it back down after I've checked the answers, then nothing moves and I miss everything that's happening. But very good. Amicable. Yeah. Very good, Flower World 17. Amicable is friendly. So you can see the base word there. I'll tell you something that you may not have known, because I didn't know this until last week when I was traveling in my car. And as you know, Caroline, she listens to smooth radio, she listens to smooth country. Caroline listens to, these days, quite a lot of the classical channels. She listens to classical. I think that's because she's got a passion for the cello at the moment, so she likes to listen to classical music. Caroline's more into those. She likes music. I'm a Radio 4 man. For those who are not from the UK, Radio 4 is news, current affairs, talking, plays, investigations, all that kind of thing. Basically, very little music, lots of voices. I like company when I'm in the car on my own. Obviously, if I'm not in the car on my own, then Caroline chooses what's on the radio, as it should be. But I was listening to Radio 4, and they were talking about the English language, and they were talking about the fact that it is probably the most difficult language to actually learn when it comes to the formation of words, that side of things. Not so much the spoken language, but when you come to the written language, we do strange things. Caroline was telling me Michael McIntyre has got a sketch about this, about our silent letters. And one of the silent letters they were talking about, they said, do you know why there's a B in the word doubt? And nobody around the table knew. And they said, well, there came a point in time when people decided they wanted the English language to look and sound more Latin. So it seems the word doubt comes from a word something like double in Latin. So they decided to make it look more Latin, which would sound more intelligent. They put a B in. So they put it, how is it spelled? Is it D-O-U-B-D-T or something? There's some crazy way to spell doubt. B-T. The B shouldn't have been there. They stuck it in to make it look and sound Latin. The only thing is, from the moment they put it in, no one said it. No one said duped. They just said doubt. So we ended up with a letter that does nothing at all, but it stayed there for hundreds of years, and we're still putting it in today. When I was in school, I was the English teacher's worst nightmare, because I have a mild dyslexia, so I struggle anyway with written instructions, with reading and with writing. I can do it, but it really tires me, and I'm very slow trying to put the words together. And they had me for spelling the word people wrong, because I put a double E instead of an E and an O. So I decided to fight my corner. Most people would think that if something is being done by everyone else and everyone is in agreement that it's acceptable, there is no corner to fight. Well, that's never been my way. My mum tells me that I have a plaster for every sore, she used to say. So I turned around and argued the case that I was wrong. I wasn't wrong, I was right. and that everyone else was wrong. Because if they want to know, it should be people. And if they wanted people, there should just be a double E. Well, I didn't win because they're still using the wrong way today. But you see my point. Language is a funny thing, very funny thing. Right then, I'm going to give you some more happy news. Would you like some more happy news? I think that would be good. Yeah, you're back. You're back. Right, this happy news is under the title, Kite Surfer Saves a Life. An Olympic level kite surfer from Brazil was testing out some video equipment on his board when he suddenly became the only hope of rescue for a stranded and exhausted swimmer. 31-year-old Bruno Lobo described it as the day that God used me as an instrument to save this young woman. All honour and glory to him. Bruno explained, I heard a cry for help. As I looked, I saw a girl who was drowning. I quickly approached her with the kite. I tried to calm her down and asked her to climb on my back. She was quite tired and powerless, but I was able to bring her safely to the sand. Making his Olympic debut in Paris, Bruno won gold medals at each of the last 2 Pan American Games. But his Instagram account is mainly full of congratulations for his rescue. But he replied that he did only what needed to be done and what was within his reach. And when I read that at the end, it tied the 2 stories together, because that group of neighbours that got together to try and save their neighbour's home, they too did what was needed to be done and what was within their reach. But this guy put it into words. A very humble man. He gave the credit to the Almighty for guiding him there to save the life. But obviously, he showed a lot of courage. But his summing up of it was, I did all that was needed to be done and all that was within my reach. And I thought, wow, I really want to share that tonight, because I get the feeling that's very powerful. Maybe it's not striking anyone else the way it struck me, but I thought, wouldn't the world be an amazing place if each and every one of us did what needed to be done if it was within our reach? Because for me, that is basically what the Good Samaritan was all about. Doing what you can, if you can. And that's what he did. He knew he could help, so he did help. The neighbours of the people whose house nearly burnt down, they knew they could help, so they did help. And sometimes we think, I wish I could do. Folks, you can't take responsibility for what you can't do. But it'd be a wonderful world if everybody just did what they can. So I thought that was lovely, and I wanted to share that with you tonight. Sorry if I get all inspirational, I can't help it. It's spending 30 years of my life as a preacher. It just never stops. You're always seeing things that perhaps written between the lines, and then I love sharing them with folks out there. Let's have a look at another find. I'm going to show you one of the finds that appeals to me and one that appealed to Caroline. The one that appeals to me, no prizes for guessing, of course. Look at that. Isn't that a beaut? And I tell you what, it's fairly heavy too. It's highly glazed on the top, but you can see on the underside that it's like a red terracotta, and then with a high glaze, and you got that hole through there. Now that hole was probably for a bolt that would have secured something else to the top, whatever it may have been. It's unlikely to have been a wire for a lamp, because there's nowhere around here for that wire to run without tipping the lamp over and holding it at an angle. So I would say there was probably a pin through there with a thread, nut either end, and something was held down on the top of there. Which means that if I at any time wish to place something on there, I have the means and the method to do so. So I like that. But if you watch the video, I'm sure that the vast majority of you out there now who know Caroline as well as I do will know what's coming next. Yep. It's Caroline's little clog. Look at this, folks. Now, I don't get as excited as Caroline by shoes. Not new shoes or old shoes. And especially not shoes out of a dump. She loves finding shoes, but this really excited her. And I can see why. Can you see? Sometimes say, well, you see the holes where the nails were. On this one, you can see the nails because they're still there. Look at that. And Caroline referred to it as a child's clog because whilst it's leather on the top, the entire base is a solid, or was a solid lump of wood. Can you see there? See the wood? The whole base was carved out of wood and then the leather was laid over and nailed onto the top. So this child's clog, I understand. With this one, the other one that I loved was when Caroline found a beautiful little child's boot. That was a boot. But this Northern child's clog, yeah, I get it. I understand. And I had to be so careful clearing the mud because, of course, everything we brought back was full of mud because it was all frozen in and we couldn't get it out. But I had to be very careful because this would easily just fall apart. It reminded me like of when they brought up the Mary Rose and they were worried it would disintegrate. But managed to bring it on you tonight to show you. And that is, I think, a lovely find. And I know Caroline would be raving about it if she was with us now. And if I just show you at the top there so that you can see how the shoe is formed. You see the leather there was cut just up in a shape, into a point. Not perfectly, it's not central to be honest. As I look at it, it wasn't cut central. And you almost feel that this may have been a little shoe that was made by Dad, who had learned the art of being able to make shoes for his children, and he'd done it down at the shed. Who knows? But it's certainly a lovely thing. And as I say, it's a piece of history. It is a piece of history. Right. I'd better ask you another question, or we're just not going to get them done tonight. Because I've got 12 minutes. I've got several questions. Another 4 questions. So we need a question every 3 minutes to get in on time. Okay. Are you ready for another question? Now, I couldn't put my hand on it. I've got it there, but I couldn't find it when I was cleaning the finds before coming on to the show. And that was the half a mug. I'll try and find it by next week and clean it up for you. The half a mug that had that Yorkshire Creed or Yorkshire motto on it. You know, the one that begins with hear all, see all, say nout, etc., etc. So, whilst I haven't got the find to show you, I'm sure you all remember it, and I'm sure many of you remember when Graham was doing did the recitation for us when we were out with him and Lynn in the woods. So now I'm going to ask you a question on that find. According to the Yorkshire Creed or motto that begins, hear all, see all, say nout, if you do out for nout, who should you do it for? A, your family, B, yourself, or C, your friends? Go. Okay, at the end of the little rhyme. It says, if you do out for nout, do it for who? Should you do it for your family? That'd be A. For yourself, that would be B. Or C, for your friends. What do you think, folks? Let's have a look. Right there. Because, go on in, got two in. Oh, they're going down. Ooh, now we've got them all. We've got A's, B's and C's. They are flooding down the page. A's, B's and C's. A's and B's and C's. Oh, everybody's having a go at this one. Well, I'm going to have to wind all the way back up to the top. Because, although we've got every answer under the sun, we do have sufficient correct answers. Oh, Lexi, you are being clever, aren't you? Ooh. Okie doke. Right. The correct answer is do it for yourself. Or, as Lexi has written, the sen. Because that's what it's all about. He says, ear out, see out, say nout, and then it goes on and finishes with, and if you do out for nout, do it for the sen. So, first correct answer is, with a B, Linda Peterson, taking gold. Well done, Linda. And this time, coming in on silver and getting that correct answer, Mike Sage. Well done, Mike. And then Lexi B. And a special mention for Rachel Bailey, as we had 4 correct answers in a row. So it's Linda, Mike and Lexi. You take the podium positions on this occasion. Right then, back down to the bottom of the chat in case I forget. Right then, I'm going to show you another find. And I think what we'll have to do now is a find, then a question, a find, then a question, a find, then a question. I think that'll work. I'm going to show you this. I was raving about this, wasn't I? I really like this. Look at the bubbles in that, folks. That's how glass ought to look. The back on that is just full of lovely little bubbles. The colour, it's richer than it looks because I've got a very powerful daylight bulb in the studio in order that it lights the room well. It's coming straight on the glass and it's not sharing how rich an aqua that is. And of course, the other thing that struck me on this occasion was that while 95% of the bottles I see like this will have Fletcher's written on the side, this one says Walmsley's. There we go. Walmsley's. Which is a sauce, and it was made in Halifax. All the information you need and a gorgeous bottle. So that came home with me. I really like that. It's just, as I said on the day, another great survivor that's been in the ground for 100 years. And I gotta be honest, I think that would look grand on any shelf. That is a nice piece. It's architectural because of these deep recesses and the columns that are formed and the arches at the top, as well as the neck. Because it's complete, the neck reaches up so high from the shoulder of the bottle. Then you've got the lettering on the side. You've got the name of Halifax there. And as I say, those rich, rich bubbles and that gorgeous aqua colour. I can't fault it. I can't fault it. I just think, what a lovely thing. How am I supposed to leave those in the dump? So I just bring them home. I end up that I can't move. And then I just wait for somebody to say, Phil, we want a box full. And then I just pack a box full and send them off via our coffee shop. So there we go. But I love them. I absolutely love them. They're great. Okay, as I said, do a find, do a question. Here we go. Right then, Caroline commented on how lovely the moss looked on the tree trunk and on the concrete blocks. But I was surprised to read that there are over 12,000 different species of moss in the world. What I want to ask you is, of those 12,000 species of moss in the world, how many of those could we possibly come across when we're out and about in the UK? Is it A, 500? Is it B, 800? Or is it C, 1,000? Go. So basically, of the 12,000 approximately species of moss in the world, how many of them can be found in Britain? Do you think there are 500 species of moss in Britain? That would be A. 800 species of moss in Britain? That would be B. Or if you think it's 1,000, then go C. There we go. So we're going to see now what people come up with. Ooh. Ooh, got lots and lots of answers. Lots of answers. Ooh. Ed, can you check out who keeps putting Z in for me, please? You may need to use your for the first time. You may need to use your moderator's tools. I don't know what's happening there because I don't recognise the name, but we're getting an awful lot of Z's coming down in the answer. So if it's somebody messing about, if you could take them out, that would be great, mate. Right, let's see if I can find my way to the top while I leave Ed to sort that out. Right. Now, Faraway Portal put 3. Oh, that gives me a bit of a problem, because does that mean they are thinking as in 1, 2, 3 rather than A, B, C? Because the answer is C. There are over 1,000, roughly 1,000, but not less than 1,000, over 1,000 species of moss in the United Kingdom. So I'm going to give Faraway Portal the benefit of the doubt there and assume they went 1, 2, 3 instead of A, B, C, which would give them then the gold podium. In case I'm being too generous, we're going to share that gold podium with West Country Mudlarks with a second answer in, and they were C. So I'm giving a double gold there. I tell you, I'm on my own. I'm just going wild and making the rules up. So that means if you're giving a double gold for Faraway Portal and West Country Mudlarks, we are now looking for another C, and I found it because it goes to Lexi B, who now has the silver, and then Tina Thompson, who has the bronze. And Tina, you pipped to the post 2 other correct answers because you came in just ahead of Rita Marburg and Ian Davis, who both said C. Yeah, 1,000. That's how many there are, folks. 1,000 species of moss in this country. Now, we did promise to show you, so I will show you now. Our pipes that we cleaned up. This one, as Caroline suspected, says Dublin. This one says O'Brien, Mayo Street, Dublin. And this one seems to just say O'Brien. If it'll pick up on there for you. If not, take my word for it, it says O'Brien. So all three related. We had Dublin, we had O'Brien, Mayo Street Dublin, and we had O'Brien. As we've said, not all pipes marked Dublin were necessarily from Ireland. They were made also in this country just to make those who were living here from Ireland feel more at home. Also, I brought to show you this gorgeous piece of stem, which still has the mouthpiece on the end. What a shame it didn't still have the pipe on that end, but still worth finding. And of course, we also found various pieces of pipe stem as well. So just wanted to share those with you before we come to our last question of the night, which is not going to be the one carried over from last week because I don't have the time. So I will carry that over again, but I have to ask the... Okay, folks, in how many places did Mankey appear in this week's video? In how many places? Go! What is your answer, folks? When you were watching the video, in how many places did Mankey appear? Because you may have seen him on numerous occasions, but was he still in the same place? That's the question. Right. Ooh. Well, again, a very wide range of numbers. We've got from, I think, from 3 as high as 8. I saw him only once, but I know there must have been more. Very honest of you, Abigail. Alright. Okay, folks. Well, based on the answer that I have on my sheet, then the gold, the silver and the bronze all go to Mr. Dan Fetters as the only person to agree with what's on the sheet, which is 3. I'll tell you where they were and we can take this up next week if I was wrong. 2:29 stamp, 2 minutes 29 seconds in the plain or pattern game. Now you saw him as the camera turned, you saw him as the game began, and you saw him at the end of the game, but he was still in the same position on the log playing the game. So they all count as 1. Then he showed up, I believe, on 2 occasions, but still in the same place. And the first time was at 6:31, 6 minutes 31 seconds, on the side of the hole, hanging amongst the roots. That's where he was for the second one. And the third time, he was behind Caroline's hand when she was showing the Dublin Pipe Bowl. And that was at 13:59. Now, if I've missed any, please get in touch and let me know. But based on the state of things at the moment, Dan Fetters cleared the board, except for the fact he now has to give up his silver position because Lexi B came in with a 3 while I was talking, and his bronze goes to Ian Davis, who decided he would write the word 3 just to confuse me. And Ed Creative and Anne Goodwin, well done, but you didn't quite make it because it seems that Lexi and Ian decided if there's podiums going, we're going to have them. Well, thank you ever so much, folks. Thanks for being here. I'm sorry it was only me, but I hope that being together in the chat has made up for the absence of Caroline for another week. As I say, Caroline's going to be back at the YouTube as soon as she can in February, so I'm sure we all look forward to that. I certainly do. But for now, until next week, take care and don't forget, have fun. Bye.